As advances in crop yield predictive technology continue to accelerate, grain growers can expect to reap rewards from better input management, more confident grain marketing, and potentially higher returns. In the Esperance Port Zone, the South East Premium Wheat Growers Association is working with 4 growers to unravel the complexities of a range of in-season yield prediction tools and their effectiveness for local conditions. With funding from the Grains Research and Development Corporation, SEPWA is coordinating trials of the Potential Yield Calculator, or PyCal, the iPaddock Yield, Production-Wise, Nitrogen-Rich Strips, and Yield Profit to see how practical, accurate, and worthwhile they are for decision-making. SEPWA's Alice Butler explains how some of these technologies work and the potential benefits.
iPaddock Yield runs off rainfall and crop yield from those years, so monthly rainfall is inputted and then the crop yield at the end of the year over 10 years, and that produces your own management curve. Enrich Strips looks at laying down a high rate strip of nitrogen and then using a green seeker to measure NDVI, compares the greenness in that high rate strip to the rest of the paddock, and from that you can kind of calculate how much you need to put on to get to a certain level of protein. And PyCal just looks at using rainfall during the season and with knowing rainfall at the start of the season and soil type to look at the potential yield for your area. So from knowing potential yield and gauging how well the season's going, you can get an understanding of how much of the input to put on.
Tyson Redding is one of the growers participating in the GRDC-funded SEPWA project, testing yield prediction tools on his Uncle Kenton and Aunt Jill Ware's Scadden property. As part of the project, Tyson set up nitrogen-rich strip comparisons in 2015. These are strips that receive a high nitrogen rate and can then be compared to the paddock standard using a green seeker crop sensing system that measures normalised difference vegetation indices, or NDVI. Tyson says the strips are a great in-season visual reference to crop performance and can be a big help with decision-making to optimise yields and returns.
Flexen strips, they're just a hot strip of 200 litres to the hectare of Flexen. They're usually 100 to 200 metres long out in our paddocks, and we just put them in varied areas on different soil types, and we can use them in the paddock as a visual reference as we're spraying or as the agronomist is out checking our crops for weeds and that. So it's just an instant read of what the crops, how the crop's going and what it looks like and whether it needs more fertiliser or not. The Flexen strips are always good for us just because they provide an instant viewing in the paddock without having to use, you can use tools to measure them, but we just view them in the paddock and take from them what we can, so that's a good instant way. But we also find that iPaddock Yield is good to give a longer term prediction of what the season's going to hold for us and whether we should be using more fertiliser or not. As a whole, with all the tools together, there's definitely sort of half a tonne to a tonne to be gained out of variable rate technology and the use of moisture probes and yield prediction tools.
Tyson says in future, yield prediction, in-season decision making and other precision agriculture tools will need to provide quick, accessible and practical information to be beneficial for growers.
I think that's definitely where the future's going to go, more towards robots and UAVs looking at different things in the paddock and getting a better overview of what's going on. Like, the more information you have in the paddock and being able to access that information in the paddock is very important too. So that's, and on the go, it's got to be quick and it's got to be useful to us day to day. Like every day we're making decisions on what to do. You can't predict the rainfall, but there's certainly patterns, and we can relate patterns of big years of rainfall to big years of yield and when we need to use more fertiliser. So that's important to us to know when to put more on and when to hold back.